Hello class, and welcome to Note 6.3, Using Intercepts. Our standard for today is AF 3.3, excuse me. And our objective is to graph linear functions. So, we've done this already, where you choose values for x and solve for y. Now we're going to learn a different strategy. Our vocab for today is the x-intercept, is the x-coordinate when the graph intersects the x-axis. And the y-intercept is the y-coordinate when the graph intersects the y-axis. So as you already know, the x-axis is the horizontal line. And so that means y will be 0, and wherever it crosses the x-axis is the x-intercept. So in this case, the x-intercept is 2, because if you start at 0, you go over 1, 2 spaces. So the ordered pair would look at 2, 0, because the y would be 0 since it's right on the line. The y-intercept is on the y-axis, so that means that's when x is 0. So remember, the opposite value is always 0, because we're not going over at all. We're simply going up or down. So we're moving along the y-axis 1, 2, 3, 4. The y-intercept is 4. As an ordered pair, that would be 0, 4. So let's take a look at teacher example 1, pencils down. Find the intercepts of the graph, y equals 1/2 x minus 5. Step 1, let y equal 0 and solve for x to find the x-intercept. So remember, you're always making the opposite one 0, and this is where a lot of students get confused. If they think for the x-intercept, the x needs to be 0. And remember, the x will be a number other than 0, y will be 0. So again, we're making y 0, solving for x. So I plug it into my equation. Now I need to use inverse operations to get x by itself. Add 5 to both sides. Then I want to divide, since I'm undoing this multiplication, but remember we never divide when working with fractions. We multiply by the reciprocal, which would be 2. Multiply both sides by 2, and I end up with x equals 10. So when y is 0, x will be 10. Then I need to do the same thing to find the y-intercept. So I need to make x 0. This one's the easier one when it's set up this way, because of course we're multiplying by 0, which is 0, and then subtracting 5, which is -5. So our x-intercept is 10, our y-intercept is -5. Now let's take a look one step farther, is graphing a line with an x-intercept of -3 and a y-intercept of 2. So first, the x-intercept is -3, so plot the point -3, 0. Remember, x always goes first. So when the x is -3, the y is 0, so you need that 0 on the end. Second, you're going to plot the y-intercept when it is 2, so you're going to plot 0, 2. Remember, the orders are switched because x goes first, y goes second. Okay, and let's go ahead and plot those real quick right now. The x-intercept is -3. Okay, there we go. I've got my line on there. Unfortunately, it's not a very straight line. But you plot your points and then finally connect the points with a line. Okay, so that's just taking it one step farther. So let's go ahead and do our first student practice. Find the intercepts of the graph, then graph the equation. Go ahead and try this. Make your graph. Okay, let's go ahead and see how you did. For finding the y-intercept, we make x 0. 4 times 0, of course, is 0, so we don't even need anything there. So obviously y equals -3. For finding the x-intercept, we make y 0. 4x plus nothing equals -3. We don't need the 0. And then, of course, to get x by itself, we divide both sides by 4, and we end up with -3/4. Now, you might have, in that division, turn that into -75/100. That would work as well. Then when we graph it, we plot one point on the y-axis at -3, the x-axis at -3/4. Okay, let's take a look at number 2. In order to solve for y, we make the x 0, which makes the 6 go away, because of course 6 times 0 is just 0. So we end up with -2y equals -2. Don't forget, this minus sign stays with the 2, so it becomes -2. And then we divide both sides by -2, and we end up with y equals 1. Then to solve for the x-intercept, we make y 0. So -2 times 0 is just 0. So we have 6x equals negative 2. Divide both sides by 6, and I'm going to leave it as a reduced fraction, which would be negative 1/3, because negative 2 over 6 is going to be negative 1/3. If you turned it into a decimal, you'd have negative 0 and 3/10 repeating, which is a little harder to graph a repeating decimal, so that's why I keep it as a fraction. Then taking a look at my graph, I have y is at 1 on the y-axis, the x is at negative 1/3. Notice I counted by 3's here to make it a little easier. Okay, let's go ahead and have you try another couple of these now that you've seen my responses. Hopefully that will help you. Again, find your x and y intercepts and then plot them. Okay, welcome back. Let's see how you did. When you make x 0, it makes the minus 3x disappear and you end up with y equals negative 15. When you make y 0, you have to use inverse operations. Add 15 to both sides, divide each side by negative 5. Negative 3. Positive 15 divided by negative 3 is negative 5. We have our graph. I couldn't get my graph to go far enough down to 15, so unfortunately mine kind of is a point out here in the middle of nowhere, but it should have been done at negative 15. Problem number 4. When you make x 0, it makes the 12x go away, and you end up with 6y equals 18. Divide both sides by 6, and you end up with 3. When you make y 0, it makes the 6 go away, because 6 times 0, of course, is 0. So we have to subtract 18 from both sides, giving us negative 18 equals 12x. Divide each side by 12, and of course you can reduce that fraction. Negative 18 over 12 reduces to negative 3 over 2. And again, you have your graph. So hopefully you did all right on those. Now we can go on to the quiz. Okay, please find the intercepts of the equation on problems 1, 2, and 3. So remember, your answers will be y equals and x equals for each of these. You'll have 2 answers for each problem. When you're finding y, make x 0. When you're finding x, make y 0. If you need to rewatch the video, make sure you do that before submitting your quiz. Have a great day.